before you mentioned that there was like 4 quadrants of employees. So low motivation, low skill, low motivation, high skill, high motivation, and high motivation, low skill. Can you give us a brief rundown of how to treat each of those employees and how to motivate them?
I can. And in fact, there's a blog post on our website about it too. So I'll start at the bottom left, low motivation, low skill employee. So the first thing is, if you're giving a task to somebody and that combination of that task and that person, right? Because each task, you have to evaluate this, right? So I could give you one task and you could be high skill, high motivation. I give you another task, you could be, high skill, low motivation, or any one of the other ones, right? And I would have to I'd have to communicate with you differently and manage you differently for each one of those tasks, right? Which I think to a lot of managers is sort of initially a foreign concept, because, you're a whole person. Why should I interact with you this way in this case and then that way in that case? And the reason is because you get better outcomes for everybody, as opposed to just taking a blanket approach and calling it done. So low motivation, low skill, the first thing you have to do is ask yourself is, why are you giving this task to this person, right? Do you have any other option available? Because this is really your worst possible choice. And if it is, you don't have any other choices and that's who you have to work with, then you have to motivate them, right? You have to say, and you have to sell them a little bit, right? This is why this is important. This is the contribution it will make to our team. This is the contribution it will make to our company. This is the outcome that we'll create by having this task done. And, kind of really get them to understand what the importance of it is. And then because it's low skill, and this is true of the one right above it, where you're high motivation, but you're still low skill, is you have to show them how to do that. You have to spell it out for them. They don't know how to do this, right? So you have to basically show them how to do that, or give them a resource that will show them how to do it if you don't know how to do it yourself, or if you don't have the time to do it or something like that. But if you just leave them to flounder with it, it's not going to get done, or it'll get done poorly, or it'll get done wrong. So you have to take them through it, and you have to show them how to do it. You have to be there or have a resource there for them to check in. You have to check in with them every day or two, and check on the progress and guide them in the right direction. And it sounds a little bit like micromanaging, and it is a little bit, but you're not in the negative sense. You're helping the person grow a new skill. And so you're hands-on with them to help them to grow that new skill, right? So really, if you have that low motivation, low skill person, you try to move their motivation up first, and then work with them to grow that skill. If you can't move that motivation up, task isn't going to get done well, no matter what, right? You've just given it to the wrong person. And even if you have nobody else, maybe that's the case where you don't delegate it, you suck it up and do it yourself. This is all about delegation, right? It's really what we're talking about. And I just sort of covered the high skill, low motivation, the high motivation, low skill scenario, where I'm eager to do it. I want to learn how to do it, but I don't know how to do it. You don't really have to motivate me. Yes, I still want to know why it's important for the company, but you don't have to do as much of a sales job on me. It's just like, here's the thing. This is why we need to do it. Here's your resources. I'll check in with you and make sure you have the help you need. Let's get this done inside, the next 3 days or 4 days. Do you think we can, is that possible?
That's high skill, high motivation.
Yeah, that's low skill, high motivation.
Oh, low skill, high motivation. Okay.
Yeah, low skill, right? Because you're checking in with them like every day. Mm-hmm. Here's what you need to do. Here's what I need you to do. First step, do the first step, come back, show me, we'll review it, right? And then go do the second step, right? And you basically walk them through it step by step so that they can onboard the skill.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So then over on the other bottom right part, we've got the high skill, low motivation. And so in this case, you really need to get them to understand why it's important and why you're asking them specifically to do it. Right? Because they might think, you know what, I'm a senior architect. Why do you want me to review this junior person's code. I mean, that's like way below me. Why would I want to do that? Right. And you might think to yourself, well, nobody would ever say that. But yes, somebody has said exactly that to me before. And so you have to motivate them on it. And how you motivate them, again, depends on what you know of that person, and how they will be, what intrinsically will motivate them, right? And, maybe it's somebody before that said, I really want to move on to the management track. And so you can say, okay, look, mentoring junior programmers is the first skill that you really need to onboard if you want to move into management. So I'm giving you this opportunity to work with this person and start by reviewing their code and make them a better programmer. Right. And they're like, oh, okay, so this is how I move to manager. Now I've just motivated that person with this task that they just thought was below them a minute ago. Right. So
Jocko Willink's book, he's got a couple, I forget which one it's from, but he talks about leadership a lot. And he says that low motivation, high skill employees can often be motivated. Sometimes they're just not given enough leadership. And so, because initially people would say, oh, this guy's high skill, low motivation, we should kick him off the team because he's not performing. But another side of that coin, if you find the right sort of person for this, is like, oh no, actually put him in a leadership position where other people are looking up to him and his reputation is now at stake. And so he needs more challenge maybe. But I guess that's maybe in your words, I think you guys, it's interesting. I don't know if you've read his books, but you're mentioning a lot of his tactics actually. So it's a lot of the same leadership tactics, but in this case, it might just be that this guy isn't challenged enough. So he doesn't have enough intellectual challenge. And he's just bored or something like that. He doesn't feel respected. Yeah,
okay. That's very possible. Yeah. And then the high skill, high motivation, easy. They're basically set and forget. Hey, this is important to the company. We need it done. When will you have it done? Right? Friday. Okay, great. I'll check in with you Friday. Right. And you don't have to do it. So follow up, by the way, with each of these is critically important. If you delegate something to somebody, you ask them to do something and you don't follow up with them in a couple of days or whatever the timeline for the task is, they're immediately going to believe that even though you told them it was important, it wasn't really. And then the next time you come to them, you're going to have that much harder time, motivating them and selling them on the idea that it's important. So follow up when you delegate is critical. If I give you a task, you say you'll have it done on Wednesday. Wednesday comes and goes. I haven't heard from you. If I don't follow up with you for Thursday morning, you're going to be like, well, I guess it wasn't really that important because I forgot to send it to them. I did it. I forgot to send it before I left, but they're not asking for it. So maybe I'll just sit on it and see if anybody comes looking, asking about it, right? So you got to follow up, and it's important. And it's especially important with people who are learning new skills. If they started a given task with low skill, you've got to repeatedly follow up with them. And how often depends on how complicated the task is and how steep the learning curve for them is and things like that. But follow up is critically important to delegation, even in high skill, high motivation. It's just how often and how you do that follow up changes.
I imagine it's also important to keep high skill, high motivation employees motivated.
Yep. And it'll change, right? So, you might be high skill, high motivation on task A, and low skill, low motivation on task B, right? So my individual task motivations sort of all meld together to form my overall motivation in the workplace. So if I'm a high skill employee and you keep giving me grunt work or busy work, then not only am I not motivated to do that busy work, ultimately I'm going to become unmotivated to work for your company at all because I'm being undervalued. I'm not being given real work that utilizes, my skills and my capabilities. And, unfortunately, I see that a lot. I think that's all over the U.S. workforce, but